That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
That's right. Greetings, I'm kidding. It's not another echo.
Oh my god, I was thinking about doing the same thing too. I was literally thinking about when you were doing your intro, I just do it again. That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. You and I were on the same page about that.
Let's go. Creepy podcaster.
Oh my god. All right, folks. Well, this is take two. That didn't necessarily end great, but it's a low stakes podcast this time around. We don't have any eliminations. I'll tell you right now, we don't even have a Walt's Vault yet because we're waiting for the person to confirm whether or not they want to open Walt's Vault. So hopefully we hear from them during the broadcast. But yeah, today is just mostly just going to be a check-in day. So Goofy, did you finish reading the project?
I read through it. Yeah, I read through it once. It took me about 45 minutes, and I was like, that is so much information. Because by the end, I was like, oh my gosh, there's still how many more things? I did make it through. I saw this morning how much you did on reviewing it. I was like,
yup.
wow. You went on a 4-hour grind.
No, 8.
8 hours, my god.
Literally, it was 8 hours from the time that they posted it at around 8:30 my time, and I got done at about 4:30 my time.
Jeez, never let it be said that you do not care about this game, because that is...
Well, my thing is actually,
nuts.
when it comes to that, the reason I really want to make sure that I did that is because I honestly do feel bad because we have had a couple guest judges who have gotten busy. I genuinely don't know what happened to Outbound. He hasn't been seen in rounds and rounds. Right. I hope he's doing okay. I assume he's up to professional stuff.
Yeah.
But I felt bad about the lack of written feedback, and Space is actually going to start doing written feedback for us.
Thankfully.
So, yeah. Colby, I absolutely did work. That was pretty much what was in my head as I was going from the 7th hour to the 8th hour. Is this is a full fucking workday for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a lot, man. This was a beast of a project. I think it's definitely the most ambitious project that the game has ever seen.
It's also one of the just largest in scope. I mentioned it whenever I was doing the intro before we had all the echo stuff, and I thought about it whenever I saw you in the diary rooms saying, how does it feel to be part of the most ambitious project in the game's history? And I took a little bit of offense to that. I'm like, I was part of the Red Dead Redemption project, and then I looked at this and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's a lot.
right.
I will say, you guys had 40 pages of brainstorming. This was a very busy week for me. There was no way I was keeping up with that. Same. And to come in and see just how much there was, I was blown away by it.
Yeah, it was truly staggering. And the reason I gave as much feedback as I did is because, like I said, partly it's just to make up for the fact that I feel like my feedback has not necessarily been lacking, but I honestly think I do want to start making sure with my feedback that I engage in every component of the project, not just give kind of baseline, this was a really good project type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, that's
and then also just the fact that it was such a massive undertaking. I literally feel like every single person involved pretty much wrote the equivalent of a solo project.
Yeah, I will say that was something that I was very not thankful is not the right word, because I do wish that Space had the time to keep playing, and I'm glad that he's going out where he wants to and he's happy with it. But I was getting very anxious thinking about having to make an elimination on this project.
Absolutely the freaking same, man. I mean, this is one of those rounds where it's just truly nobody was lacking. I mean, we've had a couple people kind of mention to us that they felt a little bit out of the loop as far as the brainstorming was happening so fast, and they might not have been that in the know about about Nickelodeon Cartoon Network stuff.
Right.
But even those people, I definitely think really Peregrine, you're one of them, where it's obviously you're not too into Nickelodeon, but man, I genuinely think Peregrine and OSU Phantom with that Wild Thornberries ride That was probably my favorite thing in the whole project for me personally.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I didn't see any real places where I was like, oh, it's pretty obvious that somebody, isn't engaged. I mean, thankfully, y'all did have time to do research into your specific thing. And I was just overall like, there's not really a weak point. I mean, obviously, everything's kind of insane with this. We asked you guys to combine
I have
Nickelodeon
like
with
a
Cartoon
least
Network.
favorite. I have a least favorite attraction. I think it's pretty
Ooh.
obvious if you've read through all my feedback what it is. But,
I think I know where you're going with it. And
but I mean, even then, it's like it's whatever. It's like it's still decent, and it's still it doesn't kill the land by any means.
Right. I think that, like, overall, it was like the fact that they actually made a land that was like semi-understandable considering what we gave them. It's like a prompt. I was very impressed with it because I had no idea what they were going to do.
You know what? I am really glad that I was able to spend as much time as I did in Seuss Landing last trip, because I was able to kind of marinate on the fact that that land is kind of broken up into like the two sections where it's like you've got the more downtown kind of urban section, and then you've got the beach section. And I think if I wasn't familiar with that, I think I would have had a really hard time following the flow of where everything was. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I had to look at a current map of the park, because whenever I've been to Universal in the past, Seuss Landing wasn't exactly a priority. So,
yeah, no, it's funny with Seuss Landing for me, because basically I ended up at Seuss Landing at like the end of the day on my last trip, just because I had gotten evacuated out of the Hagrid's queue because of bad weather.
Oh.
And so like all the major coasters were down, and I didn't really feel like walking all the way to the other side of the park to, to do something like Spider-Man or Kong or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, but the weather though, the dynamic weather, the clouds and everything, it was like magic hour lighting for Seuss Landing. And I took some of the best theme park pictures I've ever taken during that like 45 minutes I was there.
That's really cool.
Like, yeah, it was like one of those theme park moments where it's like you don't plan on spending time in an area, but then when you do, you're so glad that you took the time to explore it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's why people say that, like, in general with theme parks, there's so much repeatability, because you never spend enough time in any area, even like your favorites. You always feel like you can go back and back again. And then it's really cool when you find those hidden places that you'd overlooked, like Seuss Landing, those
like with Seuss Landing, I can tell you there's they have this Horton Here's a Who side area I didn't know was there. They have a Lorax house with like it was like the Onceler's house. Like that shit is right out in front of the Carousel, and I did not know that was there.
That's really cool.
Trip. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out whenever I go back.
Yeah, it is a really, really well designed land. I really, really liked. I like the aesthetics a lot. Anyways, getting back on track here. So yeah, I definitely think that combining that with the Lost Continent, having the Lost Continent side of things be more naturalistic made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think just overall, I really, really like the just the flow of everything. It does surprisingly flow together quite nicely in a project where it could have been really, really easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little concerned that they were going to feel like there was some sort of, like, I know we mentioned, like, we want crossovers. We don't want you to have like Bikini Bottom and like, different areas like that. But like we wanted crossover, and like they really, really embraced that, even with like the names of their land, the sublands or whatever, like that was just like super impressive to me, because it's so out of the box, so left field. And for them to present a project that is very cohesive and something that definitely would be a massive appeal to a very wide range of audiences, I thought was pretty impressive.
Sure. All right, I want to talk through just, I don't think we really should go through everything beat by beat, but
yeah, I agree.
Let's talk through just the lands. First of all, these commercial breaks were a freaking stroke of genius when it comes to the presentation.
I loved it.
I like it truly. I mean, I actually think it really accomplished its goal of kind of having a nice little refresh in between the different sections.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Townwood City. I don't know. I'm not super crazy about that name, but it's whatever.
It's like looking back at the names of the lands, I would say that it's probably I don't know. The smashing home of Jellyfield is a little weird, but it's cool too. Ocean Bottom Beach makes a lot of sense though.
I think Ocean Bottom Beach really rolls off the tongue. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But all right. So I will say that with Cartoon Chaos, certainly the most ambitious attraction.
Yep.
I definitely think this was one of them, and it might have just been the fact that it was like the first thing I was reading, and I was like, oh my god, this is already so freaking much to keep track of. I did have a hard time visualizing this one to a certain extent.
I will say that I had trouble in a lot of places. That was like the one thing for me that like it's just very difficult to visualize these characters interacting in such a large scale as well. I think that Cartoon Chaos is a really cool idea in the fact that like it's bringing in it's like kind of like a meet the characters kind of thing. Very very ambitious, like you said.
Sure, sure. Yeah, but I agree that like I the one thing I did say in my feedback that I think really really worked was a lot of times when you do a coaster, a highly themed coaster, it basically turns into Escape from Gringotts, and it's like, okay, like why even bother doing it as a coaster at that point? You have like two coaster sections, two very brief coaster sections, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
This legitimately felt like it had the structure of a coaster with some good dark ride bits thrown in. So I applaud that.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool that they I thought it was, again, and this is like the theme of the entire project, right? That like they were able to pull together different scenes, different characters from completely different IPs and such, and make a pretty cohesive attraction, I'd say, under the whole Black Hat kind of theme or story, I guess.
Now, I will say I get the logic they were going for with the Black Hat being the main character, just because it's like I feel like it's almost like they were trying to make it like, yeah, it is like technically a Cartoon Network character, but like it's obscure, so it could be viewed as like not necessarily an original character for the land, but you know how. I mean, I'm talking about this like obviously outside of the racial stuff, of course, but like it kind of reminds me how the Brer characters were sort of used as the jumping off point for Splash Mountain, even though they're
Right.
relatively obscure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Uh-huh. All right, going down the list, let's just because I do want to touch base on everything. We just don't have to spend a ton of time on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Kids Next Door, that was actually another one of my favorites. I actually think this was one of my favorite crossover ideas. I really love the idea of, because these shows have such a rich history of having really, really memorable, eclectic adult side characters. And
Right.
so to put all those adult side characters into the Kids Next Door world building, I thought that was genius.
I was so impressed with the way that they tied together. Like I said, I keep coming back to it, but like the stories that are created out of all of this, where it is cohesive, I don't feel confused, seeing characters from the Fairly Odd Parents with like, in the same area as like Hey Arnold or something like that. Like,
Right.
Like this all it makes sense. And it's really cool to see that there is this whole framework where you do have all these, a lot of times animated adult characters don't get a lot of love, and I thought it was really cool to see that hey, we're actually going to pay attention to them and give them kind of their own ride.
Okay, someone literally just commented that was a short stream, LOL, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably delete the old one, right?
That might be a good idea.
I think if Dragon saw that up on the channel, he would literally have an aneurysm. Oh my god. Love you, Dragon. Okay, it is deleted.
There we go.
Anyways, gonna go through some comments here. Tegan says, I have spent literal hours in the land pavilion just basking in it. Peregrine says, you're right, even your favorite areas you never get enough time in, no matter how many times I go, I still can't do 10 hours in the Africa aviary at Animal Kingdom.
And this is the guy that designed it all.
I feel the same. Yeah, right. I feel the same way about Disneyland's Fantasyland, specifically at night. I think that area is low key, like, still one of the absolute, like, best feeling places in the world to be, just from a magical point of view. You've got the history, you've got the lights, you've got like a cavalcade of different attractions you could do with not bad wait times, because that's the great thing about Disneyland. They have so much that the wait times don't stagger.
Right.
So yeah, I could never get enough Fantasyland at night.
I agree.
That's my big thing.
It's one of the best places definitely in California, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. I need to spend more time at Cars Land at night, honestly. I haven't really done that much.
Mm-hmm.
The shortest podcast for the longest project, yes.
That'd be kind of funny if we just like said, all right, this is really cool. See ya.
Oh, God. Peregrine says, I was so happy the Zoo Book commercials made an appearance. Peregrine, I'm going to ask you something. As a kid, were you a proud owner of the coveted elephant issue? Because that's the big thing with Zoo Books that I always remember, is that they always hyped up like, and if you subscribe now, you can get your hands on the free elephant issue. And that is like etched into my mind, the elephant issue. All right. Anyone remember there was a crossover of Grim Adventure Kids Next Door?
Peregrine had the elephant issue and the tiger poster.
Oh, and the tiger poster. Oh shit.
Wow.
Oh my God. Okay, people are agreeing with me about Disneyland's Fantasyland. That's good, because I feel like Disneyland's Fantasyland almost is like, oh, it's the little kids area. You know what I mean? It's the area for them. Like, no, it's a magical freaking place. Anyways. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So the Rugrats and Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy crossover, I thought that was another really, really solid addition. Monkey, I think you have a really, really good eye for dark rides. What I really liked about it was I liked the fact that it took place in kind of like a neutral environment, like a public park. Mm-hmm. And so that way you were able to have both sort of like classic dark ride gags and also gags that were more specific to the characters. So I thought it was overall really well done.
Yeah, I liked one of my favorite things about this was the style that it was written in, and that like it's basically telling the story mostly through dialogue and like just small bits of like information about the setting and everything. I thought that was cool as another way to convey the story. I liked the drawing of the layout as well. I thought that was really helpful and very interesting to see how it was presented, especially like you said, the park in the middle. I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. I actually have to go in like an hour here, so I'm kind of on a time crunch myself. Smiling Friends, I don't have a ton to say about it that I didn't say in the feedback, but I thought it was freaking brilliant.
It was hilarious. I was laughing really hard reading through this. Like, just the idea that, like, yeah, everybody likes the pre-show, like, but it's like it's always too long, and it just you do a pre-show and then you're in another line or whatever, right? And so like I love the idea of just like pre-show, and you're done. But I guarantee you there would be like a lot of angry people coming out of there like, where the heck was the ride? It was a great idea.
Okay, and then I actually think all four of these, the dining and then the Bravo's Barber thing, all four of them are really solid, I think. Dexter's Delights, my God, that menu. I can't get over that menu. I want everything on that menu.
That's what I thought was cool. Is like whenever I first read it, I was like, okay, so it's basically Pim's Test Kitchen. But then you read the menu, it's like, what?
It's way better than Pim's Test Kitchen, and Pim's Test Kitchen has a really good menu.
Yeah, no, this is like on another level. Transparent ravioli. Who the heck thinks of something like that?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's just super cool.
Let's see. So the Mr. Meaty Shake Wad. I basically said as much in my feedback. I do wish there was a little bit more context because I think Meat Wad selling meat-based sandwiches is a super funny idea. I just don't think enough was explored with that.
Right.
But the menu and the visuals were really good. Really solid.
Yeah. I really liked the additional items. Crispy hands made of meat. Tapeworms made of meat.
Made of
Pigeon
meat.
beak made of meat and rocks. I love it. It's so funny.
Okay, and then the Ed, Edd and Eddy candy store.
Well, did you see at the bottom of the menu the blue drink?
Yes.
Found an Applebee toilet bowl.
Oh my god.
Potentially harmful. I love that. That's so funny.
The candy store, did it bother you as much as it bothered me that like they were basically like running a sham with the Jawbreakers?
I was like, you gotta sell some Jawbreakers in there somewhere.
You can't just
like
not sell Jawbreakers. Is it Ed, Edd and Eddy candy store?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a big deal. I thought it was a creative idea to like, because cotton candy is probably going to sell better than Jawbreakers, but like you could sell Jawbreakers too. Like, that wouldn't be too hard. I did like the idea of like having the whole tower of flavors like in the store. I thought it was really good.
I'm just reminded of the one episode where Kevin's dad works for the Jawbreaker factory, and so he's got just like the whole stockpile of them in his garage. Anyways, bravo, Berber Beauty, really solid, really original idea. I would hate to meet the tools that they get to work there.
I thought it was a really cool idea. I liked because it's kind of a concept that like, Magic Kingdom and Disneyland have barbers, but it's like not something you really think about. And that wasn't really the emphasis, but it was a cool way to bring Johnny Bravo into the land as a whole though.
All right. I will say out of the three main areas, this is probably the one where some of the stuff didn't really sit with me as well as it could. Let's talk about this Rocket Power ride, because I do think that it is solid, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it's a little too off the shelf for a Universal ride, and especially something that would stick in the Universal skyline.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like, this isn't like enclosed or anything. It's open. I do think it's
honestly,
cool
based on this map right
system.
here, it does look like it would make a cool visual.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think that it would look really cool. It's just like you said though. It's not like it's something that's as, I guess as out there as like appealing per se. But I did think that the ride system as a whole was, a fun idea of like, having the train rocking back and forth and going up and down the inclines. I like that. I like that idea. Like you said, it is a little off the shelf, but it doesn't. We can't. Not everything has to be like groundbreaking designs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with this at all.
And then we get to the SpongeBob boating school, which
is your.
I'm not gonna lie, this is the one attraction I'm still kind of trying to. I'm having a hard time visualizing this one.
Yeah.
It is elevated, right? Because I know they said they're not just replacing the or they're not just putting it on the Seuss trolley train ride, whatever the hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I read it, is that it's not like actually on the rails like that,
but it is elevated above the land though, unless I'm missing that.
I would think so. I'm not sure. Let me look back at the map.
Tegan, can you possibly confirm that?
Yeah, it has to be, because it goes over like pathways and stuff. Yeah.
So my whole thing is that I do think that having like the SpongeBob boats is like kind of like a Rocket Rod style fill-in for the Seuss trolley train ride. I think it's a solid idea. My hesitation is that I do think that there's a little bit too much going on as far as the theming goes, if that makes sense, because it's like if you look at something like the Sue's Trolley Train, it does have theme, like it does have some scenery up there, but it's pretty light. You know what I mean? Like it's mostly just an observation ride, and so I kind of feel like this could have maybe. I feel like if this was more of a thrilling observation ride and less of like, you know, the actual emphasis on the boating school part of it, I think I could have visualized it a little bit more.
Right.
It's a solid idea. Like I said, I just think this was like the one where I was kind of struggling to kind of picture it in my mind's eye.
Well, and I will say that I do understand that, like, you know, this is the, I'd say it's SpongeBob's one of, if not the biggest IP in the whole land, and I would
say between Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, I think SpongeBob is pretty clearly the biggest, between the two studios.
And this is his you know, big attraction. I mean, there's Krusty Krab, but like I understand wanting to.
Deacon, you don't have to be sorry. You don't have to be sorry. I'm sorry that I'm not reading it right. Like by all means, this is just this is just feedback. I like it's all good. I don't want you to feel bad about it at all. And honestly, one of the things I was having a little bit of a hard time with was kind of distinguishing what parts of it were going to be outside and indoors. So like, I mean, yeah, if you can maybe like be a little bit more mindful of that in your, you know, I think that's something that can only help. Like you're already an awesome writer. And I think that's a tip that can only help you. Like, so by all means, don't feel bad about it. Anyways.
Yeah, I will say that I thought that overall, though, the idea of, you know, doing like an observation ride but spicing it up some is a really cool idea, because like I you know, like you think about rides like for example the TTA or, you know, the Seuss Trolley, they're not exactly like bringing in tons of people, right?
I think like, the TTA is, given the Disney nostalgia of it all. That's what I've heard. Okay,
that's fair. I'm thinking of it more as like, that's the kind of ride that you use like almost as a barometer of like how busy is the park. If the TTA has a wait, then the park's slammed. And I do think that has a better chance of being something that's going to be busy, not just because it's SpongeBob, but because there's more to it than just like, you know, just driving over the land. I thought that it was a really cool
for sure.
Take on it. Yeah.
All righty. Well said. Okay, honestly, I don't really have like the Krusty Krab. Okay, well, there's a couple other things. So the Crystal Candy Spin, like, it's a really cool flat ride. I just think it's maybe a little bit too elaborate for what it is, as far as the realism department.
This is what I was kind of getting at a little bit. Like, there is nothing wrong with being a little generic in some places, especially in something as big as this. It's not like you guys are making like a single ride and then you're like,
to be fair, like I don't necessarily think this is. I mean, it's generic as far as the ride system goes, but like I really do like the fact that they have like all these different vehicles. Like usually the multitude of different vehicles is saved for something like a carousel. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I still thought it was a cool idea. And the thing is that it brings in more IPs, because I will say that like you go through this thing and you're like, especially whenever you get towards the end and you're like reading like the Hanna-Barbera stuff that they would have the rights to, and it's like, oh, that's stuff like there's a bunch of stuff there you could have pulled in too. So there's like so many things that could be put into this that I understand why they're like, any place we have to fit in another IP, we're going to do it. And I appreciate that, because that's like a major embracement of the craziness of the prompt.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. But I do think with this, like the queue is cool, and the temple would certainly make for a really cool exterior. I just think, frankly, the temple is like way, way too elaborate of an exterior for a simple spinning ride.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's very overkill.
Yeah. Unless that's like part of the joke, but I don't think it was meant to be a joke.
Yeah. No, I think. Well, I don't actually know for sure, but it would make more sense as a joke than anything else.
All right. The Nick Arcade, I freaking love the idea, and honestly, I think you could do a whole project based just on this, considering all the, Nickelodeon has dabbled in video games. They obviously have a lot of game show stuff at their disposal you could put into here.
Right.
yeah, this was like I love the idea. I really, because obviously this isn't a lot, so I
Yeah,
want
and
a
I'm not.
lot. Oh my god, I just saw the fucking Dolly Parton Eisner thing right there. Oh my god.
I didn't even notice that. I just saw the Danny DeVito one.
Right.
That's fantastic.
I do love how this season is taking on a life of its own with the in-jokes between like the Danny DeVito and the Eisner Dolly and then like the Rockwall stuff.
Absolutely. This has been a great season for the stories, honestly.
Okay, the Krusty Krab, I'm not going to lie. I do think that out of everything here, this is a solid addition, but I really don't think it does anything special beyond just being like, hey, the Krusty Krab, you like it? Yeah, you get to eat here. Like, I don't know. Is that like, again, it's like, it's less, I feel like it's a good kind of like Toad's Cafe style experience. I feel like maybe some more detail could have been put into like, you know, maybe having like a locked door to Mr. Krabs' office where you overhear him counting money, or, you know, maybe chaos going on from the kitchen, from SpongeBob's end. A little bit more detail on the Squidward animatronic interactions. I already kind of pitched this, but I think it would be really cool if every hour they had some sort of plankton event happen or something like that. But so like as it stands now, it's fine. I just think there were some opportunities you could have done to plus it a little bit.
Right. I think that I will say that like making the Krusty Krab itself, you know, you're already going to be guaranteed to be packed a lot with what they're doing. Like, you know, you got the menu and everything, and you do have the Squidward animatronic. You've got the windows and everything. It would have been cool to see some more additions made just to like make it like extra special and stuff that's a little beyond what's been seen before. But like, it's hard to have complaints about it too, because they executed it well, and it would definitely still be a massive draw in the land.
I have also heard freaking horror stories about the Toad Cafe at the Hollywood version of Nintendo World. So like, I imagine crowd control is terrible.
Oh yeah. I can't imagine that would be.
Oh my god, it sounds legitimately awful. Anyways,
yeah, I mean, because it's like, well, I think about, you know, like experiences with like the overly themed restaurants that get packed, like you know, like Three Broomsticks being one, right? And like, that's nuts whenever you're like having to wait outside.
Be Our Guest.
Be Our Guest is another one that's very long wait for for eating, and it's like you do want to have the ability to get your food faster, but
okay, Be Our Guest, I literally sat there for like a half hour waiting for them to bring me my food, and I got so impatient that I was like, fuck this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I kid you not. Because the thing was, I wasn't even sure because I had heard that it was like one of those things where like, as soon as they brought you to your table that because I had already like put my order in on the app and everything, right?
Right.
And so I was like, okay, like nobody's coming. Like, I'm pretty sure what you're supposed to do is there's like a front counter or something that you're supposed to put your order in at, like right as you first walk in. But nobody fucking told me to do that.
Oh,
and like the only thing I knew is that like I had placed the order on my phone. So I was kind of assuming that it was going to be one of those things where the phone itself would kind of ping the people to show them where I was and bring my order out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, no. And and then I got social anxiety. I was like, okay, I'm a fucking dumbass for not knowing how to do this. And I don't know if you've all been around me. You know, most of you haven't, obviously, but like when I do get socially anxious, it can be pretty stressful. I tend to catastrophize things pretty quickly in my own head.
See, I will say, like, in your defense, I actually worked at I did quick service at Disney last spring in the college program, and there is not a stupid question that you can ask that they have not heard. I promise you that.
I didn't even like, I was more so just I was more so just irritated that nobody was communicating with me. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, it's kind of it's a confusing system. Like whenever I've been to be our guest, right? Like I didn't order ahead or anything, so the counter was just what you did. But like that's kind of not
Like
good.
for me, I didn't get the logic of, okay, if the order's already on my phone, why would I have to go up to the counter and order it again? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I understand.
I'm assuming that what they do is they give you some sort of tracker or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure, like, for sure, but I would guess that, like, because, like, in quick service with mobile order, right, it's just like you tell them you're there, and then they, like, call out your order. But
right
there, I would assume they'd have to give you a pager so that you don't have to go up and get your food, and they can wait on you instead.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was definitely people, like, running around with trays of food, serving people, and it was, like, one of those things where it's like, okay, when's my food coming? My food's not coming, is it?
Yeah, that realization when you're like, okay, how bad is it going to look for you to just get up and walk out now?
Right. That's absolutely what I was grappling with. The lady who was, because ultimately I just walked out and I just told her, like, look, this is my last day in Disney World. I straight up don't have time to be waiting around for a meal. I already wasted enough time here. And I was nice about it, you know, but I was kind of like, I was nice but firm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was super apologetic, to her credit.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they even told me, like, okay, well, don't worry about, you know, like, we're not going to charge you the $10 for the reservation or anything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So. Anyways, that's our little Be Our Guest story. Jesus, we got sidetracked.
Well, that's part of the show, right?
Right. Shore Shack, not a lot to say about this one. I do like the fact that they kind of converted it into a gift store. I think that's a clever twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I liked it.
I also really like the Kula-Rooney smoothie. I just think Kula-Rooney is just very, very rocket power.
Right.
Just in wordplay.
I thought that was cool. I will say I was a little bit like with the pineapple ice cream, is it like really the necessary direction to be like trying to rival the pineapple Dole Whip? Because, like, you know, Disney's kind of got a stranglehold on that. It's not a bad thing for. Like,
I don't think Disney has a stranglehold on the Dole Whip anymore. I see it everywhere now.
That is interesting. I mean, I will say, like.
Oh, dude, I saw it at Lagoon. I saw it at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. I mean, it's fucking everywhere now. It's not special anymore.
I will say that, like, it's still very, very popular. I'll say I worked. It's funny. I've been on a bunch of these podcasts now and haven't talked about my college program at all. I worked at the Polynesian in quick service, and so one of the things I did was the Dole Whip. And, like, there was not a day, like, the absolute worst part of the job, right, is cutting the line at the end of the night, because at some point you have to get out there.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've told some of my friends this. You know, you guys know enough about me. I can tell you this. So I made Snow White cry.
Oh my God.
So look, it's like end of the. I know we're getting on another tangent, but whatever. You know, we'll get through the rest of this quickly. But at the end of the night, like, Pineapple and I closes at 10. So right at 10 o'clock, you've got to be there to cut the line. And people will come up, and, you know, I'm in costume. I have a name tag on and everything. And they're like, oh, is the line closed? Oh, yeah, it is. And most nights, it's not terrible because the line does go down the later it gets. But for whatever reason, the line, I come out and I look, and I'm like, this line's like another half hour. Like,
oh my God.
It's the longest line I've ever seen. I had to turn away so many people. And then we get to, like, almost to the end of the line. Like, they've made it through almost the rest of the line. And this little girl and her dad walk up, and the little girl's dressed like Snow White.
Oh my God.
And they asked me, the dad asks me if the line's closed. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. And I did everything I could to, like, try and make Disney magic for people. But, like, I turned away so many families already that I would have felt really bad letting that family in.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'm sorry.
I could never do crowd control at Disney. I do not have the gumption for that.
it was painful because I said, "I'm sorry, the line's closed," and the dad goes, "Hey, it's all right. I understand you're doing your job." And
Mhm.
the little girl goes, "So no Dole Whip?" And her dad goes, "No, honey, the mean man won't let us get any." And then
Oh
he's
my
like,
God, are you
and then he said to me, "I'm just joking, I'm just joking." And then
okay, right,
they
right,
like
right.
started walking away, and the girl lost it. She
Oh my
was
God, dude.
bawling like all
Jesus.
the way across. I mean, you know where it is, right? Like the Dole Whip stand, and
Yes,
like
yes, yeah.
across the Polynesian lawn.
Could they
I can
technically
still
get
hear her
it at
screaming.
Trader Sam's if they wanted it?
I don't actually. I don't know for sure. I was only in Sam's a couple of times. I'm not
Uh-huh.
100% sure about that. Actually, no, because the bar would have been
Like,
closed
I'm
since
just
I
trying to
opened
think
it
of
down
like a
there.
potential hack they could have used.
Right. Well, yeah, and like the thing is like they were actually there like probably about 30 minutes after the stand was closed. But
Sure.
like,
So it's like you feel bad, but also it's like, it's not like it was like a just missed it kind of situation.
yeah, exactly. I will say I gave out my fair share of Dole Whip while I was there for free to people. So like I don't feel it was bad, and like I know that she got her Dole Whip at some point, but like yeah, that was one of the harder things about working there.
Mhm. Monkey,
Anyways,
all I can say about the Toadstool Cafe horror stories, listen to the latest podcast, the Riot episode about Super Nintendo World. That's all I'll say. They go into some pretty grisly detail about it. That's actually what I was listening to as I was grading the projects for some of it. Anyways,
anyway, sorry for that other tangent. I thought y'all would
yeah,
enjoy that
Jesus
story.
Christ. Like the two freaking like standalone restaurants are the ones like they're not even crossover restaurants. and they're giving us the most conversation points.
I love
All right. Next up.
Infinity Train Tunnel.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. We kind of have to power through some of this. Like with this, it's like I really like the idea. I don't have a ton more to say beyond that. I think Universal has been kind of doing some really interesting things with their land transitions recently. Like with the hidden entrance to Diagon Alley, and obviously like the pipe entrance into Super Nintendo World. So I think this is a really good kind of like it definitely keeps that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate any place where there's like a creative land transition. So I thought this was really cool.
Sure, sure. Okay, onward to Jellyfield. So Wild Thornberries, we already kind of said, like, I truly think that is the best attraction in this whole project.
I really liked
Like,
it.
I think it's like I honestly think it's a better crossover than the main crossover, just because I feel like it's a lot more natural.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. My one thing that I just want to point out is I was very pleasantly surprised with the Miss Spider's Sunny Patch. Like that's like one of the things that like that unlocked memories that I didn't know I had watching that. I was like, whoa, when I saw that picture.
I feel
like
a lot of people are having that same reaction when they see the big Mickey Mouse Playhouse set in the Runaway Railway queue at Disneyland.
Yeah, for
It's like,
sure.
wow, that's unlocking like childhood nostalgia I didn't even know I had. Like, I know I'm not going to feel that because I'm too old for that shit. Like, I grew up in the original Blue's Clues days. You see me, like, you show me a like a recreation of Steve's house. Yeah, you're damn right. I'm going to be impressed. But anyways, why hasn't there been a Blue's Clues house built somewhere at some point? You would think that'd be a really cool, like, interactive area.
I mean, I will say, like, aren't they like made a movie or something recently? Maybe
right. I need to watch that
steam.
movie because it's got Steve and Joe in it.
Yeah.
I have been needing to watch that movie.
I will say Blue's Clues was like I was like in the range where like I was way more into the Disney stuff than like other stuff, but I was kind of familiar with Blue's Clues and like seeing when like Steve did that video like on TikTok or something that was like all over the place where he was like, back as Steve. And I was like, oh man, that's like super weird to see.
Right. I
like
hear you.
Old Steve. It's weird.
All right. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say about the Wild Thornberries ride. I haven't already said.
Right.
I just think it's absolutely fantastic. I think all the crossovers make a lot of sense. You know what for me, one of the funniest gags in this whole project was?
What?
Just Quail Man randomly being in the middle of all these animals. That was so freaking funny to me.
That was a great idea. I like it.
Although I will say, I do think if I were to say one thing about the representation of shows here, I think y'all did a really great job picking stuff out. But I also think it's a little bit shameful that there's a distinct lack of Hey Arnold anywhere.
Yeah, I noticed that you mentioned that, and I was like, oh, that's true.
Yeah, there's practically no Hey Arnold representation. And for my money, Hey Arnold is the GOAT, right? At least for me, I think that it is the GOAT between the two networks.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. Hey Arnold was finished up before I would have been watching TV. But I do definitely understand that it is an important show, and it's kind of weird that not weird because y'all, like I said, y'all packed in every single other IP basically.
The only reason I mentioned Hey Arnold here is that I think it would have been funny that if along with Quail Man, they would have had Pigeon Man from Hey Arnold in the same scene.
Oh yeah.
Although I also think that Pigeon Man would have been a really, really good Hey Arnold episode to translate for Tales Told Over the Garden Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about that episode at all?
Not 100%. No.
Okay, I know that Monkey. I know what Monkey. I know knows what it is. Hey Arnold is GOAT, but I don't know. It's a hard time coming up with an idea for an attraction. That is absolutely fair, Tegan. Absolutely fair. It is not necessarily the most visually dynamic show in the world.
Right.
I mean, I could think of stuff I think Hey Arnold. One thing is that Hey Arnold does have some pretty memorable. They have a memorable aquarium. They have a memorable dinosaur themed amusement park. So I don't know. Beyond possibility of the show, yeah. I mean, I would say even a walkthrough of Arnold's boarding house would be really cool to do, just because his room is so iconic.
Yeah, well, they did have a facade or something related to Hey Arnold.
Yeah,
I guess that it wasn't an actual walkthrough thing.
Okay, yeah, a decorative interactive stoop kid. Yeah, what a Jolly Ollie man? Maybe, I don't know. I think there's stuff you could have done with it. Anyways, but like I said, I do strongly think that the Pigeon Man story really would have worked itself in very, very nicely to the Over the Garden Wall storytelling, which I do think was really great. I think the Over the Garden Wall stuff was by far the best entertainment in the land for me.
Oh yeah, it was really cool.
All right.
But we got to talk about the best IP integration of the entire project.
Okay,
that's right, folks. It's Yogi's Wacky Races.
Oh
I told y'all, y'all include Yogi Bear. I'm going to be so freaking happy. I absolutely love the idea. I think that it was.
I barely even think this counts because the Hanna-Barbera characters weren't created for Cartoon Network.
Okay, but that's where they air now. So that I will say, that's pretty much my familiarity with Yogi and the Hanna-Barbera characters does come from Cartoon Network. So
no, I mean that's fair. Before the cartoon era, it absolutely was just the Hanna-Barbera channel.
Right. So Tiki, you can hate away all you want. Yogi Bear belongs in this park.
Oh my god.
I am the staunchest.
If I remember correctly, it's not
defender.
even Yogi Bear himself that I have a problem with. It's just the idea of doing a dark ride, and it's just and we're going through forest and more forest and even more forest.
I've internalized all of the terrible things that you said about our Yogi Bear project. No, let me just list them out for you. No, I'm kidding. No, that was it was not a great project. But anyways, this did a much better job of bringing Yogi Bear into a theme park than we did a few years ago in season 18. I really appreciated the creativity of it. Again, embracing the crossover. You got the Flintstones, the Jetsons. absolutely love the idea of having like Hanna-Barbera ride. And Yogi should of course be the host because he's the greatest of all the Hanna-Barbera characters.
Uh-huh, for sure, for sure.
I will say I was surprised at the end to see, or yeah, towards the end to see Scooby Doo just like casually thrown in. It's like, is there not like, if you're gonna bring Scooby Doo in, there's a lot more you could do with Scooby Doo.
I was honestly really surprised that like they went with All Real Monsters instead of Scooby Doo as crossover.
Yeah, no, that would have been a cool. That would have been a cool attraction to see as well.
Although that does already have a movie and not a great movie, so
That's fair. It's definitely not a good movie.
no, really, it really isn't. I wanted that movie to be good so bad, but it was not.
Yeah.
Eustace rapping, Goofy. Eustace rapping. Oh, but yeah, I do think that Brer Oswald, or I'm sorry, Brer Panther. A lot of Breyers here. Attraction, yeah, I would say this is even better than the animatronic show.
Yeah, yeah, I would
So
agree. This was honestly one of my favorite things, and not just because I'm like a Yogi Bear fan. Like, it was really good.
So, like, Brer Panther, if you're watching this, like, I am definitely worried about you the next round with the creepypasta stuff because you pretty much did that thing where you're like, okay, I'm not really sure, like, I'm not really familiar with this. But man, I do think that if Brer Panther really sets his mind to it, like, I mean, he has surprised us. Two different, like, I think his output this season has collectively been stronger than any other output he's done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was very impressed overall. I was Brer Panther was again somebody that we didn't really know how far they make it just based on past performance and involvement in seasons, but they've been a very, very pleasant surprise so far, and this was like definitely their best contribution to the season so far.
For sure, for sure. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, like this is going on like goddamn. I didn't want to just go through all of this, but I guess we are. Avatar or the Foster's Gift Shop, you have any notes on those?
Not really. Good additions. I will say.
Okay,
At
I've
this
got
point
to
in the
be honest
project,
with you.
was like, this is so
When I
much.
hit the Avatar restaurant, that was very much where I was hitting a brick wall as far as my feedback.
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know what to say at this point. It's good. It's really good.
That's that's the result of the of how long the project is and this stuff being at the end. I will say, like aside from Yogi Bear, I did not fully in detail read everything else in this part area. I'll be completely honest.
I did. So
yeah, you're way more committed to the to reading through everything. I could not have pulled 8 hours last night doing this.
that was after already playing through a stressful as hell strategy game all week. Yeah, it's been fun. Anyways, and with Foster's, I do think that it's cool that they have a lot of different things going on in that store, like the meet and greet and the make your own imaginary friend stuff. Yeah. It's not my show. Like that was very much the show where I remember when that came out when I was about 13, 14, I was like, yeah, I think I've aged out of Cartoon Network at this point. But
it's always sad when you get to that point. I still remember I saw like, I don't know, like probably 3-4 years ago, I saw like ads I saw something on Disney Channel and I was like, looking like the ads for the stuff. And I was like, holy cow, I do not know any of these shows.
Right.
Like that was like a weird moment whenever like, oh my gosh, childhood's dead.
Exactly. Okay. But you know what? I do think that this project did make a really smart move with the Halloween Horror Night stuff and saving, because I feel like with that, it really did kind of end on a high note for me. And it actually ended on stuff where it's like, oh, sweet stuff I can actually give feedback on instead of just like, yeah, this is a really good addition.
Yeah. And I will say I'd forgotten that Scooby-Doo was like a big feature in the first maze as well. But yeah.
I don't know. So learning with Pibby, I definitely like this short. Just straight up creeps me out. So I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
This whole concept is pretty freaking freaky to me.
It's definitely very out there. I did like
Yeah,
the
like
all the
I mean,
artwork
just
they
the
did
whole
for it.
idea of them taking like their regular mascot costumes and then distorting them.
It's very scary to think about,
That sounds
honestly.
terrifying. It
Yeah,
legitimately does.
yeah. There's gonna be some very scarred children
Oh
going to,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but
I mean,
I
look
really
at
like the idea
Finn's
though.
face here, man. It's freaking it's so bad.
It's very disturbing.
I also love how in the Pity short they have just the generic like Ursula style cat villainous character.
Right.
Anyways. And finally, the cutie top of the whole thing. Ah, courage, the cowardly dog. Yeah.
I really
Um,
like this idea.
I really like the idea too. Like I said, my thing is that I wish with courage we would have gotten a little bit deeper into like the other creepy stuff between these networks. Like I would have really loved to have seen some of the nightmare fuel that Rugrats is known for. I think the
Yeah.
whole "I'm not Stu" gag would have fit right at home here.
Hmm.
I'm not Stu. I think that this also would have been a decent spot to have some of the Hey Arnold stuff, some of the creepier Hey Arnold stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I respect them not going with the low hanging fruit of Scooby Doo, but at the same time, I'm almost kind of surprised that it wasn't at least like some sort of cameo.
Right. Well, I mean, it wasn't the other one, but
That's true. Yeah. Alrighty.
yeah. All
Well,
right.
I think we've gotten through all of that.
Yeah. We
Would you
do
like
have.
to read some confessionals?
I was about to ask if you wanted me to read some
Let's
confessionals.
do some confessionals. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the first question that we asked everybody was, how did it feel to be a part of the most ambitious project in the game's history? And it seemed like there was kind of an interesting mix of a lot of
Mhm.
people were like, somebody said this project was endless fun from start to finish. For the last 8 days, I've experienced the pure joy of armchair imagineering and completely forgot about the game. I'm so very proud of the effort we put forth and truly hope the rest of the team feels the same. And somebody else said, honestly, I don't usually enjoy these mega sized, overly blue sky projects. I feel like the more blue sky you get in terms of scale and realism, the less fun it is to work on, especially post merge, where you mostly lose the pressure of competition. These types of rounds usually make me start to tune out and just wonder why this couldn't be a blue sky open brainstorming thread. But something about this one really clicked with me, and I just decided to lean in and do some super self indulgent stuff. Everything I worked on, I made for me. And if it turned out good, that's a bonus, and I really enjoy it. But then you
Mhm.
also had a couple people who were like, truthfully, it was rough at some points. I'm very proud of our final project, and I think it's something we can all be proud of. But it was very easy to get lost or miss being updated because of so much being happened. And then somebody else said that it was a lot. They felt like they were a little out of their element with the crossover, but it was still a lot of fun. Um, and then they said, although I'm pretty sure half the team, myself included, doesn't even know everything that was included in the land. It's like drinking from a fire hose, which I was a pretty good way to describe it. It's like drinking from a fire hose, all the different cartoons that were pulled in. And then we asked another question: which other two animation studios would you want to see crossed over? Uh, we had a lot of different responses to this one, actually. So, like, you had uh, Pixar and Illumination, which would be kind of cool. So they said The Incredibles in the world of Minions would be hilarious, or imagine Buzz Lightyear crossing over with a Lorax. I think it'd be really cool to work on. Um, Somebody else said that they thought that they don't really know any others besides these because they're not a big fan of the DreamWorks or Sony ones.
Uh-huh.
Which means that if we ever do this project again, those are the ones that we'll be using. And then I also saw that somebody said, as a kid, Disney and Nicktoons were my go-to channels. For nostalgia reasons, that crossover would be fun. For my interests now, though, Cartoon Network and Disney Channel both have shows that lend themselves to theme parks, in my opinion. And then my personal favorite, for the chaotic heck of it, let's just say PBS Kids and Fox Animation.
That was also my favorite.
Because why not? I love this idea.
Static Shock meets Cyber Chase.
And then as far as asking which shows out of the ones represented were your favorites, we had several different answers here as well. And by the way, there's a message in the diary room that you might want to check out if you want to stop screen sharing.
I did
go look at it.
What
did you see it? Did you see the diary room message? Like,
I did see it. Yes, I
okay,
cool.
All right. So as far as the shows represented in the project, which one's your favorite? Like I said, we had several different answers. Codename Kids Next Door, Avatar, Powerpuff Girls. Actually, 2 people for Avatar, Rugrats. So yeah, a lot of different options. Y'all lose some points with me not picking Yogi, but whatever. And then we had 2 questions that I thought were very funny. So I'm actually going to do the last question first. What's your favorite type of pasta? We got ramen, like really good ramen is soul enriching. Somebody else said
that. I feel
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, it's so good. Somebody else said, call me Garfield because my answer is lasagna. This is an interesting answer. Not an experienced pasta guy. So let's say the marinara sauce that comes with Pizza Hut breadsticks.
Oh, snap.
Then somebody else said gnocchi, which is honestly really underrated. Gnocchi's really good. I'm not sure if it actually counts as pasta, but like it's really good. And then I loved this answer. Like he gives us a whole recipe here.
Technically, wouldn't ramen be noodles and not pasta?
Well, that's fair, but like gnocchi is like basically like potato like dumplings, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different, but yeah, I get what you're saying. And then my favorite answer to this one, I call it jerk Fredo. I take popcorn, shrimp, and broccoli, toss it in this crazy spicy black goo of a Caribbean jerk marinade I use. Then I add that to some garden rotini noodles and finally smother it all in Alfredo sauce and Parmesan cheese, preferably with homemade garlic breadsticks on the side. That's wild. They give us a whole recipe here. Like, oh, that was a solid answer. That sounds really good, actually. And then last question is, you don't have to name names, but do you have a ride or die in this game? So we had responses from 5 people because we sent these out kind of late and had an earlier podcast than usual. But first answer, yes, I absolutely do. Honestly, I have 2, which is a little interesting. I definitely feel like I do. I hope they feel the same way back. Somebody else said, not that I know of, like no one's reached out to me about that. I made an alliance with someone early on, and I'm committed to it, ride or die. And then my favorite answer to this one, it was space up until last night. Which is yeah. Oof.
Okay. Well, I am going to go ahead and go on because I do want to just do kind of like a public forum type of thing here really quick. Sorry, let me just solo layout. Okay, so yeah, guys, as you probably sort of saw last night, unless, it got lost in the shuffle of all my feedback, I have been playing in a super duper intense strategy game over Skype for the last week. And all I can tell you about that experience is that it's really opening my mind to just how stressful being in a strategy game can be. And with that in mind, like, obviously we still got the zombie PO MVP, the kamikaze PO MVP still out there. Obviously there's still going to be some Walt's Vault stuff. And there's still going to be like, like the whole idea of people making nominations and naming PO MVPs. But like, I want to emphasize that, like, I feel like I was going a little bit hard on the strategy department earlier on in the season, especially with some of the diary room stuff. Like, I truly think that with the diary room stuff, I was literally like looking to make drama, and I'm not into doing that. Ace says, I love, like, and some people have reached out to me and they say they do love the strategy, and that's totally fair. And I'm not trying to shame anybody who does want to engage on the strategy side of things. But what I do want to address is that I am going to try my hardest to not make it feel like personal or sensational in any sort of way. I'm not really all about kind of having a big like wow moment out of someone getting eliminated in a surprising way. I really want to just make sure that everybody playing here gets as much out of the season as they can. I don't want any hurt feelings. I don't want any bruised egos. I think you all are like an awesome group of people. Obviously, it's an all-star season. I think, Final 8, I think you all are amazing in your own way. I think you all have a path to win. Like, honestly, even someone like Brer Panther, if he could really turn it on, I mean, he's got 2 really solid projects under his belt already. So it's like, I don't even, like, clearly he's a little behind in some areas, but I do think that, I do think that he does have what it takes to, if he really set his mind to it. So I truly think every one of you has a good chance to win. And the last thing I want to do is cultivate an environment where y'all aren't wanting to work with each other, or are like, maybe paranoid about like, oh, well, if I help them out with this project, then they'll, it's like, I'm not interested in doing any of that. I could say that this round's Walt's fault is going to be dramatic. I could say that much.
It's a very ironic round for this Walt's fault.
I know, right? Because it's like, folks, I'm literally pitching all this stuff right now. And then as soon as we tell you what the Walt's vault is, I'm going to look like a giant fucking hypocrite.
I feel very bad about it.
I mean, but it's one of those things where it's like we have the Walt's vault stuff locked in from the start of the season, right? So
I will say that we have not changed anything with Walt's vault for a very long time. So like, it's not like we're changing things based on the current climate of the game.
No, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We're not like saying like, oh shoot, that person got Walt's vault, let's switch this around. It's like, no, we have a lineup of Walt's vault stuff that has been, I think the only thing that was impromptu on our end with Walt's vault was just the decision to not have one this past round.
Right.
But with that in mind, here we go. Tell them.
Oh, of course. Right as soon as Ace says, I can't prove it, but this is all Goofy's fault. Okay,
yeah, well, you know your role. You're the bad cop here.
That's apparently how this works.
Yep, it is.
So, the Walt's vault was passed to Brer Panther, and we got confirmation about 25 minutes ago that Brer Panther had decided to open it, which is hugely ironic considering everything that's been said, because this Walt's vault means that opening Walt's vault means that Brer Panther is automatically up for elimination. So the project manager this round will only have to nominate one person, and then obviously themselves.
2.
They will also be up. Oh, they still have to nominate.
That's something I wanted to bring up with you before, but I forgot to. I think just to make this a little bit more fair, I think we should have the project leader nominate 2 people in addition to Brer Panther.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Yes, that works for me. So we don't change very many things with the Walt's vault. This is I don't think this is honestly a big deal. Like, it is what it is. Brer Panther's still,
I mean, like I said, the reason I'm doing it like that
Walt's
is just
vault
because I really don't want Brer Panther to feel like he's screwed. You know what I mean? So it's like he still has 2 people who could go out instead of him. I do think this is going to be a challenge for him this round, because I know he's not into the creepypasta thing. I'm going to be rooting for him for sure. Yeah, but that's about it.
Like Tegan just said, so half of them are going to be nominated. Yeah, pretty much. There's 8 people now, and 4 of y'all are going to be up.
When you break it down, actually half of the cast is going to be nominated.
That's how it's like that. Yeah, that's what it's going to be like whenever we get down to 6 and 5 as well. So it's good practice.
That is exactly what it's like when it gets down to 6 and 5. When it gets down to 5, the majority of people are nominated.
Right. But yeah,
all right.
that's Walt's vault. PO MVP.
Yes.
Was hang on, I gotta make sure. I always get nervous.
I know who it is.
Okay, you can go and say it.
It's pie.
Okay, I was right. Okay, good.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So congrats to Pie on My Cake. You have the PO MVP. You automatically get a free pass to the final 7.
Woo-hoo.
Unless someone wants to use that Kamikaze PO MVP. So, obviously keep that in mind. You're not entirely safe. That's why I like having that Kamikaze PO MVP floating out there. Even if it doesn't get used, it still is an incentive for PO MVP people to not just sit on their laurels.
Exactly. See, I knew it was pie, but my biggest fear is that I'm going to pull a Steve Harvey and give it to somebody else, and then actually.
Oh my god. All right.
But yeah, congratulations.
Well, I think that's about it, Goofy. I think we've had a good show. I'm looking forward. I will say this. I think the Creepypasta project, it wasn't necessarily my most anticipated of the season, but I do think it's going to be the most interesting one to see how y'all do with it, because I think there's a lot of moving parts to it. Obviously, I think the Lagoon component is probably going to be the most challenging part of the prompt, especially from a budget point of view.
Yeah.
And then also, I feel like the cast is maybe a little bit split as far as some of them are really into creepypasta, others are not. I know that Monkey is kind of into creepypasta lore, but I also know that he's not really that much of a fan of haunt events. So I'm going to be curious to see how he does this round. But yeah, that's about it. What's the rules for the podcast to learn more about creepypasta? And Peregrine, by the way, you need to get back to me about because I messaged you about our podcasting schedule. So please get back to me about that. And Peregrine, bro, I need to know if you've seen the movie Speak No Evil, because it fucking shook me. Easily the most disturbing horror movie I've seen since Hereditary. Easily. Anyways, just saying, Peregrine. Please get back to me on that. I'm dying to know. All right. Haunt events don't not intrigue me. I just don't think I could go to them. That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. All right. LEP says I would have totally swept the floor with this round if I was still in it. Well, there's always the zombie PO MVP.
That's definitely still out there.
Yeah. I mean, I would at this point, even though Ellie and Space both pulled themselves from the game, as long as they're cool to come back, I would allow them to come back if someone used the zombie PO MVP on them.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, just some food for thought for whoever's holding on to that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of I have an idea in my head of who's holding on to it, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Right.
Okay. Any final thoughts on the Creepypasta project from your end?
I don't think so. I will say this is not really in my wheelhouse, so I'm interested to see what y'all do with it. But yeah, and y'all have a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
So yeah. Good luck.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. It's been awesome. And like I said, just my whole experience playing this freaking crazy, insane game. I'll probably, honestly, I will probably just go through and maybe do a podcast with somebody once the game is over, just kind of explaining beat by beat just how stressful it was to compete. Because I swear to God, Goofy, every single day I wake up with this competition, there's a part of me that just wants to be go up to every person, just be please vote me out. Please vote me out.
That's a lot, man.
I swear to God. I legitimately feel that way, dude.
That's crazy.
It's at the final 8 right now, and it's I legitimately cannot handle 5 more of these eliminations. This is fucking brutal. Anyways. Oh, Sonia, I'm really sorry to hear about your grandpa, Sonia. I am really sorry to hear about that. So I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah, that is about it. Everybody, have a good one. Sonia, if you are just joining us, I know you're not a part of the Imagineering community, but there is a link in the video description to the project we're talking about. If you do want to check it out, just throwing it out there. Okay, have a good one, everybody. See y'all later.
Bye.
Also, your team name sucks.